Talk
Oh my
show.
God.
Recorded live.
Well, hello everybody, and just so that you know, we'll go over it again. That is not me on Talk Shoe saying recorded live. I swear they must have picked me up in my sleep or something like that. But welcome to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the Black Science Fiction Society.com website. And this is the January 23rd edition of 2015. And our special guest tonight actually just found out he spent some time living in Chicago, although he was a North Sider and I'm a South Sider. But this is D. Rankin Bodhi. And
it is.
Yeah, and he has so many things behind him that the 2-hour show probably is not going to be enough. But welcome to the show, sir. And by the way, where are you coming to us from tonight?
I am calling from Florida. Nice.
What part?
Florida. I am calling from actually Lakeland right now. I'll be on my way to Tampa in about tomorrow, but right now, Lakeland.
Okay. And go ahead, make me feel bad. What's the weather like?
Well, I am presently right now in an office wearing nothing but the warmest material. I should say the coolest material. I'm wearing flip-flops, a nice little multicolored shirt, and all my jewelry, and it's nice. It's hella nice.
Okay.
There's not a snowflake in sight, baby.
Yeah, I used to complain, but you know what? I'm the person who chose to live in Chicago. So
understood.
I'm going to try not. Yeah, I'm going to try not to complain. And you know what? We're experiencing a heat wave. It's like 31 degrees. So again, I earlier today I tried going and just laying out and read a book on the beach. Just because it wasn't below zero. But I swear to God, on the north side, this skinny little guy came up and tried to roll my ass in the water, screaming, "Save him! Save him!" And he just ruined my afternoon.
You ain't a whale, baby. You ain't a whale. Come on, stop that.
But thanks for being on the show. And
thank you, sir.
Seriously, we hooked up. Early last year.
Yes, we did, sir.
You expressed a desire to be here, and with all of the accolades that you have behind you, I think this is a natural fit. So,
definitely.
But first of all, you mentioned that you lived in Chicago when you were younger. Is that where you grew up?
No, I did not. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado, Rocky Mountain High, baby. I grew up there, born in the 60s, grew up there in the 70s, finished my education through high school, went on to college, Metro State College, and then went on to the University of Northern Colorado to further expand what I was trying to do at that time.
Yeah. And early on, I mean, let me ask this. Early on, did you have, did you have inklings of the creative side of you, or did that, or did much of that manifest itself later?
Oh, no. Most definitely, I had that very early on. My mother was a model, popular back in the day. My grandmother, I was basically raised by wonderful, powerful women who basically taught me how to expand my imagination. So I didn't grow up in the hood. I basically grew up in mountain country. So my weekends were spent hanging out in museums and art exhibits. My grandmother learning about the mountains and the country and how to live off the land and so on and so forth. So imagination came with ease. It was hard, being black with this type of mentality and type of imagination as a creative, but still, I needed confirmation of where I was moving and the things that I was thinking of and the things I was, dreaming of, the music, the tunes in my head and everything that was going on. And my grandmother taught me patience from living in the mountains. I learned a lot of patience.
Okay, and so, you mentioned the music. If you look at yourself from, try to get outside yourself, or even better, how do you self-identify as a creative? Would you call yourself, I know that you've done so many different things, but, let's start kind of early on. Was music a main driver of your creativity, or did you have additional, genres behind you? Tell me a little bit about how you kind of came up as a creative.
Oh, I understand. The music basically was a driving force. It's I would say life force. That has always been there. Listening to R&B music back in the day, whether that be the 60s and 70s when I grew up, and hearing what my grandmother and my mother played during that time.
Uh-huh.
For me, I would have to say that since the music came naturally, I needed to put images with these things, and Stanley Kubrick was my first. I learned about space through Stanley Kubrick and how dangerous it is and how crazy it is and how you get lost out there, you're gone, and you're done. And
Mm-hmm.
it was Star Wars, like everybody else, that made space a little bit more playful, but still I wanted to stick with the serious side of space and what it's about and so on and so forth and yada yada yada, and still have that, light speed, time travel, lightsabers, the whole works of what Star Wars is all based on. Not necessarily time travel, but you know what I mean. I was totally available to see all that and accept that, and that really got me off. What if I wanted to get off the planet? What would I do? How would I survive on the planet? And how would I do this? And yada yada yada. So
Sure.
that was pretty much my basis.
And I mean, sci-fi obviously crept on you pretty quickly. I mean,
very quickly.
Yeah. About how old were you
quickly.
when you first started getting into that?
I would probably have to say about 7 years old again. If
man.
you remember back in the day, yeah, huge. There was no Superman, there was no Spider-Man. I mean, at that time, there was the $6 Million Man. There was, Journey to the Bottom of the Sea, 2,000 Leagues Beneath the Sea.
Right.
There were a lot of things that were going on as far as Space Battlestar Galactica and the things that were going on long before Star Wars came out. But I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to learn what it is to go into space, to live out there for a long period of time. How long would my body survive? How would I eat? How would I do this? Will I miss my family? Literally getting off the planet and finding out what would happen. So that was the first thing that started, and then I wanted to start building spaceships, and then I wanted to be a part of NASA. That was huge. So that pretty much carried on from 7 all the way to 10.
I get that. Let me and I hope you don't get offended by my asking you, but do you think it's because you had a largely middle class upbringing that you had the luxury of kind of glomming onto and being able to be entertained and intrigued by something like outer space?
No, what it was when as a black man at the age that I am right now, and I noticed I've listened to like 40 of the 80s shows that you put out. I noticed a lot of people don't want to talk about their age, but I'm in my 50s now. At the time that I was growing up, during the time that I wanted to go ahead and explore these things, it wasn't a luxury.
Okay.
My grandmother made an effort to take me from here to this, up middle class or not. There were things that I need to learn. My grandmother did not want me to have a police record. My grandmother did want me to go to college. My grandmother wanted me to do these things, and she had to expand my mind. So when I'm not sitting in front of a computer, because at that time computers were not in existence. Get out of the house. And I say get out now. And when the lights come on, when you got to be back in. When them street lights come on, you better be back in this house.
You know what's funny right now?
That.
You talk to, like the current whatever gen it is. I don't know what they call this current generation of 20-somethings. But if you ask if you ask them what a card catalog is, they look at you like they have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly, the Dewey Decimal System, all that thing. I was a nerd back in high school, so I had to truly learn that. And because I was an amateur archaeologist and amateur astronomer, I wanted to learn about certain things. And I remember, back in the day, it was the microfiche. When it came time to graduate high school, you didn't get, okay, we're going to sit you up with this computer program and hook you up. No, it was, brother, there's the microfiche. Get on that microfiche. I'm sure a lot of your listeners out there that are our age understand that microfiche. It's a long process, but in the end, your jobs are limited by that microfiche. Whatever's on that microfiche is what you get. You can't respond to it. You accept it and you move on.
Yeah,
and
it
I would
wasn't
not
interactive.
take I was not going to take what I was accepted with, and I wanted more. I wanted more for my life.
Somebody mentioned in the chat room, and I see you're not logged into the chat room. Not that it's any problem. I'll let you know if anybody has any questions. But
No
somebody
worries.
mentioned that Encyclopedia Britannica was the internet, and it really was, or for the lesser intellects, World Book. But you're right. I mean, it was a whole different way in culture of acquiring knowledge, of about looking at things. I mean, when you talk about the space program back then, for people like you and me, where do you go? You go to Popular Science. You go to the library. You maybe pick up Scientific American because they didn't. National Geographic was great on doing
was the top one,
and
the scientific one. I read that, but they only showed you how to build machines. That means you had to have access to a Radio Shack, which was not available at that time. You either had them, unlike Bill Gates. You got the materials in the garage. You can go there and build that stuff and say, "Hey, Mom, I need this LED," or "Hey, Mom, I need this," or "Hey, Dad, I need this." That wasn't available. You had to understand what the process of an LED is. So therefore, you had to go into the library and look that up. You can't just go on the web and say, "Oh, LED lights. What's going on?" No, you had to go through the Dewey Decimal System. You had to look through the libraries. You had to do that hard, strenuous legwork and how to get the information, to learn how to have people teach you how to do this. Not necessarily saying you had to, how can I put it, you had to learn how to think, not what to think.
Right. It wasn't spoon-fed to you, and basically they taught a whole different style back then. They taught you how to acquire knowledge. Nowadays, they just tell you where to go get it. Oh, yeah, just go to Wikipedia. Oh, just go here, just go there.
Exactly.
And you teach that to kids, and then you wonder why the hell they plagiarize their papers, because they don't know any better.
Which is totally true. But most of us at our age, our grandparents now of Generation X, and what most people give, they don't teach their children, instead of giving, they give them a destination, not information. They leave the information up to them to find themselves. However, when you learn how to cuss for the first time from when a child, they heard it from the playground because their parents said it. And children are like sponges. They just repeat that madness out. Nowadays, you don't even need that. These kids, you go ahead and play on this computer, and by the way, I'll be right back in a couple seconds. Meanwhile, your kids are like typing away. They know more than what you do, and guess what? They're on a porn site. Oops, sorry. I thought that was, you don't know what they're pulling out or what they're pulling out. You don't know what they're reading, what they're saying, all that stuff, And the kids just don't understand that legwork and how hard it is and what you specifically looking for, and not be deterred or distracted by other things out there. Stick with what you're looking for and focus on that,
Yeah. And it's funny because as I listen to you talk about that time, I'm a little bit older than you are, but we grew up during the same time period.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things that was like cool for me, we were very fortunate here in Chicago to have a Heathkit outlet, Heathkit store, where you go in there and you look at these cool things. They had one of the first robots. They had one of the first commercially available consumer computers. They had all of these cool things that forced you not only to maybe take a look at the technology, but you actually had to build it. And,
definitely.
And you have no opportunity for that today. Kids don't have any opportunity. Even the best colleges they go to, they don't build anything. What they do is they're being taught at the elementary and high school level just enough so that they can make change at McDonald's. And nobody, and it's sad. So it is so cool to hear that, excuse me, an early age interest like that was something that you pursued. And I also, obviously your grandmother, my mother, they were of a different generation too. They were of the, first of all, there was no way I could be in the basement and just do stuff. They made me go outside. They made me go to the library. I say this just to let people know a little bit how geeked out I was. In 8th grade, I did my 8th grade term paper on Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Now, there ain't a whole lot of black folks now who know who he was, but that was also back then. But you're right, it was a whole different time. And I don't want to make it sound like, oh, it was better, oh, it was, we're superior. It was a lot, it was just very different. So, at the time,
I totally agree.
Yeah, so at the time, you're into sci-fi, you're into music, you are self-motivated in so far as, like, it sounded like your grandmother said. I would bet if you went and asked her about a thing, she would have told you to go look it up.
Oh yes, that was a constant, always a constant. But if there are certain things that I needed to needed a deeper, more explanation for example,
right?
Not to bring this up, I know this is a family show and whatnot, but let's just talk about teen sex, for example. My grandmother told me the rules and what's going on. Do you want to take care of babies? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? No, I do not. Well, then you better keep that. You better keep your hands
keep your
to
zipper
yourself.
up. Keep your zipper
up,
right.
and you focus on what you want to do, because Granny ain't got no time to be taking care of you and your babies that you can't support. So you better focus on what you need to do. Yes, ma'am, I understand that. I will do exactly what you say, ma'am. And yes, and I stuck to it without flaw.
Well. And the other thing was, it just made sense back then. It's like, who wants to have, well, anyway. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. But no, but the cool thing is the values are different now, or maybe not the values, but at least the execution of instilling values in kids is a lot different now. First of all, they can see anything they want to see on the internet. Any sex act they're interested in, they can see it on the internet.
Exactly.
And for parents to believe that, oh, no, not my kids, is very silly. So that's different.
Exactly.
Actually on their smartphones, they have access to more sexual content than you or I could ever have gotten into at that time.
But of course.
Yeah, so the values are a little bit skewed. The way people acquire their information is obviously very, very different. And I also think that probably, it is my contention that the culture that we have today is a far less curious, a far less adventurous, a far less self-motivated culture for young kids than it was back then. And I don't say that like, we're superior. I'm just saying that things have gotten different.
No, I totally understand. I totally understand you. My extension on what you're saying is, for example, in my eyes, what I personally believe is the 80s was the last decade of innocence. When you consider the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and all the way back, the 80s was the last decade of innocence. After that, that's when Rodney King, that's when everything completely changed. So when you were born at that time, you really did have an old-fashioned way of how to get the American dream, what you will achieve, what you can achieve, and how you can do it. Now, once the 80s were gone, rap music came in and totally blew things up. And I'm not blew things up bad, but blew things up good. Now we're listening to this, now we're listening to this, and now we're listening to this. And the children have they have a short attention span. That's why, as much as I would love to write a children's story, my work is all based on, for adults, bedtime stories for adults that give you, when you finish reading them or see them in the film, you walk away with a good piece about yourself and your place in the world, and gives you something to think about, as opposed to saying, okay, one ring is going to sew them all, it's going to fix everything, like in Lord of the Rings, or whoever draws a sword is the king. That doesn't happen. Those archetypes are dead and gone. I'm writing stories for the adults who live. The children are always going to be taken care of, and I'm not saying anything bad about the children because they need that help too. But for me, it's important for my stories to influence and hopefully show some joy to the adults that are already living, and say, here's a good story for you to read, and now take that goodness back to your children and let them go run around and go crazy. But in the end, it's a story for adults. Adults, in my vision, since I've been in the game for so long, I understand that adult comic books were the way to go. This is what is eventually going to happen. Studying it for as long as I have, since '77, when I really got hardcore into it, I understood exactly. You're like, well, I used to take my kids to this thing. Well, not anymore. It was never going to be that way. if you had been persistently going to the comic book conventions as I had from 75 all the way to 92, then you see how much things have changed. I mean, even San Diego Comic-Con, which used to be this place where you go in and you get a ticket you get next year, but now it's so overly processed, then I believe that we as black people who have access to these wonderful Comic-Cons that we have, and we're going to continue doing this in high school, the way it works is like, when I say high school, it's like this. When you're doing the Comic-Con thing, you either rent the office buildings, then you have a little Comic-Con. After that, you go to the high schools, then you have your little Comic-Cons. Then after that, then you go to the colleges, then you use their auditorium. And then after that, then you get to San Diego Comic-Con. But we're still doing high schools right now, and that's just not going to work. There are a lot of black people, creatives out there that really need jobs that are creative and need to make money off their creativity. And working with me and the people that I have working with, I make sure that they get that by giving them 100% of their profit. And that is very hard. Everybody, no matter what you do, somebody's going to want some of your profit, but they don't understand the business behind it, the money behind it, the marketing behind it. Do you want to last a year or forever? What is your goal and what you want to do? And that's a hard thing to explain to artists, especially black creatives, who say, okay, well, I'm doing this. Okay, well, do you care? What about the money? I know that it's not about the artwork. I know you love it and so on and so forth, but it's about that money. Did you think about this? Did you consider this? How are you going to do this without this? And a lot of black people don't understand that because we haven't been taught that. We walk in saying, okay, like you've said numerous times on your show, well, I'm going to give it to Oprah Winfrey, and then she's going to go ahead and check this out, and then all of a sudden it's going to work. No, dude, that's not how it works. I mean, I understand.
Right.
What is the joke that black people use against us ourselves? Oh, they're looking for that hookup. Well, that hookup is going to come, brother, but you have to understand the money behind it. I understand that you love the work, but it's about that money. If you don't understand that money, then you are destined to fail.
Well, and there is a sad similarity to our culture where a lot of people there are ways that business gets done in this country. Okay, and some people could call it, oh, well, that's the white way of doing business, or that's how the man gets it done. I'm going to be keeping it real for myself, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And unfortunately, business models exist for a reason, and successful business models get replicated. And,
true, but if I may jump in here, Mr. Hayashi, and just to jump in here real quick, business model has changed because of the invention of the internet. All those old people that were in high school going to, it's completely changed, and a lot of people don't get that the model not only has changed, but those revenues or past revenues do not exist. Why do you think the music business is getting crunched and getting killed by YouTube and everything else out there?
Movies too. I mean, the fact of the matter is that all content, with very, very, very few exceptions. Okay, sculpture, something like that. But about almost all content can be digitized. And once something can be digitized, it can be distributed in a way where you don't get your automatic value-added cut of the profit.
Which is totally, truly true. Totally true.
Yeah.
However, that digital format is not permanent. Do you understand? It's one thing to go out and buy, for example, I collected comic books that put me through college, that allowed me to live in Europe for 8 years, that allowed me to go ahead and do this because I collected these things. I wasn't taught about the Dow Jones and how to invest in these things. I just had to follow my gut instinct, which was instead of buying this one issue, number one, I'm going to buy 5 of those issues of the same number one, and then I'm going to buy 6 of number 2, 3 of number 3, 4 of the, that whole thing. Now, over time, those comic books were worth money now. So now I was able to change those and change my life. Do you understand?
Well, what you did was you monetized your interest. Okay.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't always recognize how that can be done. Before we get too deep in the weeds, let's talk a little bit about your teenage years, okay? Because you mentioned that you lived overseas. Once you got out of high school, what did you do then?
Wow, that's really kind of crazy because I got to go back and start into college and go back into high school. And being born and raised in Denver, Colorado. Now, granted, I'm going to get back into college after that, but you have to understand that Denver, Colorado, I went to East High School. I graduated in 1983. Don Cheadle went to the high school I went to. He graduated in 1982. My mom went to that same high school, but back in the day before I was born. So that means my principal knows. He knows my grandma. He knows my mom because my mom was the first black prom queen ever in this school. So when I came in when it's time, they're like, "Oh yeah, we know who you are, so we're looking out for you." Now I started Dungeons and Dragons. Not started, but I played Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons at that time in the 80s was considered a very, very dark game because you hung out with people in the basement playing these games with the player's handbook, the monster manual, Fiend Portfolio, deities and demigods, and all these other crazy things. Now, my grandmother was not sure about that. The only difference between playing Dungeons and Dragons with friends and now is what's called an Xbox, PlayStation. You play the same game. You know what I'm saying? It's just not in board form. It's in computer form. Back then, when you were, what are you playing this game? You're hunting down demons. What's going on? I can't believe you're doing that. I don't understand what's going on. And those things worked out, I had to go ahead and play these games. Now, when I left and went on into college, I continued my education, and I studied film, and I continued Dungeons and Dragons, in college. In a sense, what I'm saying is, since I've been writing, 95% of my clientele has always been white. So most of the people, they're like, oh, well, I've never written for, I write. Well, no, my whole life, my whole clientele has been white. They have always been white. They've been white because they get it. Black people back in the 80s, when the crack epidemic was huge in the cities, black people weren't thinking about Superman, Batman, or any of that madness. Things were tough, but me, I didn't have that upbringing, so it was always about science fiction and so on and so forth, So that's my thing. So I just continued that. I continued to learn that, and I got into special effects props and selling my services when I moved to California to people in the film industry.
Okay.
And pretty much from there, that's when things got, wonderfully crazy. Wonderfully crazy. I knew I wanted to do something in the film industry, and I knew I wanted that work to go by. But put it like this: when I got out of high school and I wanted to go, the colleges I should be going to were UCLA and USC. These were schools that were, I didn't have the money. Like my grandmother pulled me aside, and she said, "Listen, I'm not going to send you to college. Your family's not going to. They don't have the money to send you to college. So you're either going to join the military, do the post office, or find another way."
Right.
Because we're not. That's not going to happen. And I understood that at a very young age. So when I was showing you, Jervis has my book, my portfolio. But if you look on there, I did the NAACP. Now when I say that I did that, that means they had an actual award back in 82, 83, where they got the best mathematicians, the best scientists, singers, dancers, actors, filmmakers, and myself, and many others, and got them all together in Boston, Massachusetts. I won that contest the first year, $1,000. My name got in the paper. I got the award. The NAACP was happy about this. Second year, I went to New Orleans, won that. So it was go. When the newspaper like, yeah, we're going to send this brother to college, everything's going to work out. But things didn't work out that way. I didn't have the money or the scholarship to go to USC or UCLA, and I unfortunately couldn't get help by the United Negro College Fund, which my grandmother pushed me into, so that we can not push me into, but she said that this is what's going to happen. But the United Negro College Fund couldn't help me because in order to receive that fund, you have to go to a black college, all-black college.
HBCU. Yeah, right.
Exactly, and there were no film schools at that time, and there's not even any black film schools now. You know what I'm saying? So there was nothing I could do. So if I can't go to UCLA and I can't go to USC and I can't get the United Negro College Fund in order to get help to go to a college because there's no black schools that teach this type of work, that means, boom, forget college. You're in California now. Now it's time to do it. You got to pound that pavement. So I took all the skills that I knew from making all the science fiction films, and I hired myself, like I mentioned before, for the kids who were in the film school. So they needed special effects or something so forth. So they would put ads in the California paper, which I responded to under the name of Nightwolf Productions, and offered my services to help them get through their student films. So I learned how to do that. And that was it. That's college.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, and see, the thing is, college is not a prerequisite for anything. I mean, when you and I were coming up, as many people went to trade schools as went to college.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
so
Very true.
and yeah, so it's and I didn't ask it like, oh, well, that's the panacea for everything, because obviously, you know, I tell people that I have the finest sixth grade education that Chicago Public Schools can offer. And, you know, me and Jethro Bodine, you know.
Yeah.
But the
Right.
thing is that you know, when you look at, well, okay, we have an unbroken string of us being slighted, and when I say us, black folks being slighted, you know, that goes back over 400 years. And the fact of the matter is, you know, even through today, in too many cases, in order for blacks to get the kind of education they want to get and get it in the areas that they want to get it,
yes.
Sometimes they have to jump through some extraordinary hoops to do that, or you know, they're just not offered that opportunity.
True.
And
Very true.
the focus in this country is, you know, basically you have the wealthiest people in this country doing what they can to make higher education inaccessible to anybody but their own kids.
Understood.
And so you know, it wasn't so bad. I mean, obviously you did a hell of a job learning all of that, but you're learning on the job. And that's how we used to learn. We used to learn by example. We used to learn by doing, and it's not that easy to get that kind of job today. I mean, yes, you can be
on the job experience.
Right.
On the job experience that cements the learning process, as opposed to being told something and then having to regurgitate it later. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Somebody said I was stupid in the chat room. Well, that is no. It's true. I mean, when you have the finest sixth grade education that the Chicago Public Schools can provide, people will of course make that connection. So anyway, you know, I do film here in Chicago. You know, I do script repair, I do production work. I help people produce and things like that. And one of the reasons why I work here, and one of the reasons why I have, you know, probably about maybe between 50 and 75 people that I work with, you know, on a fairly regular basis, is because we have all concluded that for the vast majority of people, L.A., going to Hollywood, is where you go to have your dreams die, because it's very hard to get that on-the-job experience in a substantive way. You know, people will use you for slave labor, things like that.
I hear you.
So, you know, finding an opportunity. Let's say you're a black person a black man in St. Louis who is interested in doing film. You know, where does he go? He can come to Chicago and go to Columbia University, but that's a mixed university. And I'm not sure, but I think it's predominantly white. So, you know, they're basically, like you said, where's our black film college in this country? Well, where's our black film school? You know, that sort of thing.
I totally understand. I totally understand that. Like, not to get off the subject, but staying on the subject.
Sure.
Let's take Avatar, for example. When Avatar came out, there were a lot of people, there were a lot of white people that I knew that were in the genre that were like saying, like, look, if this movie becomes successful, that means we're out of work. Because if you look at the Oscars, the Academy Awards, when it won, what did it get? I think it got like best technical award or something like that, and that's pretty much it. They couldn't get makeup, they can't get costuming, they can't get anything because all that was completely fake. Only, excuse me for saying this, but only the white people were out of work because they're the ones who went. Because when I was, like you said, college, going to all the people that I know that went into college to learn all that stuff, that could afford to go to college, well, guess what? The computer's been invented, and now you got to pay and all that money that you spent learning all that technique. Well, now you got to go back again and relearn it all over again, and it's all computer now. You know, that means all those bills that you spent, all that money that you spent is completely done. But black people, well, we never lost anything because we were never in the industry anyway. Because when I was hanging out in when I was living in California, when they were you know, protesting and picketing because of their pay or whatever the deal was, well, you know what? I lived in Studio City, which is pretty much the hometown, of movie stars, living right next door to them, down the street from them, and so on and so forth. But the thing about it is there were mostly white people that were losing their money. There were a few black people peppered through there, but that was about it. When
Right.
it comes down to the computer, that was it. They were out of work. But now black people who do not know who never went to school but want to get into movies, well, boom, let's do that now. We don't need to do computer work because that costs a lot of money. Let's teach you how to do it old school, like Hollywood was built on. The servos, the latex skin, the whole thing, the prosthetics, the creature effects, all that stuff matters. We don't just have to just put a green screen on you like Andy Serkis. He's getting all kinds of work, but he's not doing anything but wearing a little green skin tight outfit and little computer balls and whatnot, and changing his voice. That's it. He doesn't have to do no makeup. He just puts some stuff on and just walk around and talk and do this. So they computerly digitalize his face and put some other stuff on there, like the Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That's totally Andy Serkis all up in there, just like Lord of the Rings. He's Gollum up in that bad boy.
Well,
that's it. No makeup is necessary.
Right. In most cases, he's basically voice talent. Okay. Yes, he has. They do some motion capture, but we're at the point now where motion capture is unnecessary because we have digital simulations of human movement, non-human movement, animal movement, things like that, where you look at these things and you're creating an illusion out of whole cloth. One of the coolest things for me was, I still am in awe of when they did the first what was that movie? It's the one with the dinosaurs. Sorry, I have CRS disease.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Yeah.
The original Jurassic Park.
So,
that was
when you look at the original Jurassic Park, and let's say that they showed that movie in the 1930s, there's no way that the people in the 1930s would not have been convinced that dinosaurs were real.
Exactly. But you have to also understand that even because Spielberg put out Jurassic Park, which is a Michael Crichton book, Stan Winston was the man behind the actual physical dinosaurs. So when you needed to have a two-shot with a character talking to this dinosaur who's either laying down or about to get attacked, they built full-scale models with that, plus the skin, plus the servos to make it move and so on and so forth. That wasn't all computer. And because of that, that set that movie for precedence, and that's why they knew that it was going to be a smash and a success. You know what I'm saying? That's the mixture between computer, the old school puppetry, aka Jim Henson, and computer mastery, and to make it look more real. Plus with the sound effects, and let's not forget, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's company. They had the lighting, the sound, the special effects. They were all behind that whole thing. So of course it was going to turn out awesome. But if black people are going to do this, we don't have the computer. We're not writing programs and code to make these things happen. So I believe that black people need to be able to get back into the old-fashioned way of building puppetry that looks feasibly correct on camera, and how to make prosthetics and creature masks and so on and so forth, and down to our fashion and our jewelry. It needs to be updated and brought into a world where it's acceptable and not replaced by computer work.
So what you're advocating seems to run counterculture right now, because I look at the people on BSFS, and I've spoken to Kevin Wilmot. He did Destination Planet Negro with a minimum of special effects, but what it sounds like what you're recommending is that for us to recreate the magic of the original illusion of Hollywood illusion.
Exactly.
Okay.
When you sat down and watched. When you watch King Kong, and I'm talking Peter Jackson's version of King Kong. You saw King Kong up there. You knew by far, even though it looks great, that is computer effects. That's what's jumping off. But when you saw Aliens, I'm talking James Cameron's Aliens. I'm talking the first Predator that came out with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm talking about even as far as Empire Strikes Back, when you saw the Tauntaun, when Phil Tippett did the stop-motion animation and they cut to Luke Skywalker on the Tauntaun. That was puppetry. These people, they were doing it long before that. So now that the white people are out of work because everything with computer, where black people need to know how to do that, and now we can take that puppetry and mastery of that physical work and bring it into our own work and do that. You're not going to compete against the man who's got the best program because you're not writing the code. That's it. You have to go backwards, and you have to go backwards to learn the art and the magic to keep that magic alive. So when you see that magic on that screen, you go, geez, is that real? Or is that computer? Wait a minute, that character's actually touching. Oh, is that real?
Right.
That whole thing. You get to wonder about that. Back in the day, you had to find out how they made this. You had to look and see if you had to find out. Now you get DVD tapes and now you get the special features. And even that's not enough. You still got to go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking, when of course Stan Winston. Stan Winston was the genius behind so many, I don't even want to say effects. He created creatures. He created style. When you look at like you said, you brought up a good movie. The original Alien. That was a movie that
the second Aliens, not Alien, but
okay.
Aliens.
Well,
that's really went crazy.
Yeah, but both of them did not rely on CGI to the extent of, let's take the last Transformers. To do the last a movie the equivalent of of Transformers, they were figuring that if somebody had a very, very high powered graphics workstation. So let's say a brother has a very high powered graphics workstation. It would have taken him 14,000 years to render that movie.
I agree. I totally
and so
I totally agree.
So when you look at maybe the ambition of doing a movie like that, some things are out of the average person's reach,
Which is totally true.
And the bad part, the horrifying part, the part that's so disappointing is that who is going to be the first black director to have a $150 million budget for his movie?
You know what?
Okay.
I totally understand that. I totally understand that. But the track record has already been proven. One of the problems I had, because I've written 18 screenplays, 64 short stories, and not only that, my graphic novels are vast, so I'm ready to get going.
Right.
Most of the people, if they didn't look at my resume and they saw the NAACP awards I had at the bottom, they just kind of skim through the resume and they look and they talk to me and they're like, oh, yeah, this white boy is great. Yeah, let's get him in. And all of a sudden they find out I'm black. And they're like, what? And look, let me just give you a really quick example. Circa 1992. Remember when the mergers were all getting started and everybody was merging together, getting all this? So, Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen started DreamWorks. They were just getting started on that. I just so happened to, because I'm a hardcore sci-fi fan and I have friends in the network, told me about what the situation was. So I put my screenplay in, which is Body Slide. I pitched that in. Boom. I get the interview. Now I get to DreamWorks and I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, this is going to be good. I got my nice suit on. I'm not on black people time. I'm early. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. Now I get in there. The guy looks at my portfolio. He doesn't even look at me. He looks at my portfolio. Says, oh, this is nice. So why do you want to get into science fiction? Well, blah 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 blah. I give my explanation. He goes, okay, we'll be in touch with you. Now I said something on the course of, I want to bring another type of feel to the science fiction because I see that it's dying and I want to add on something to it and basically change the game. He's like, okay, didn't even look at me. He said, okay. He closed the book and he said, okay, thank you. Now I get this, and now I get my portfolio back. I'm walking out the door. Now the guy the assistant who brought me into the office is like, hey, you're the guy who wrote Body Slide? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I read that script. That's such a good script. I'm like, oh, you think so, man? He goes, oh, thank you. I said, dude, I'm not gonna get the job. But he goes, nope. And I'm like, why not? He says, they're scared of you, bro. They're scared of you. They're not gonna let you in. But I'm gonna tell you this. I liked your script, and I showed some other people, and I want you to stay with it. Keep the faith and all that other good stuff, and you keep making it. No problem. I left. I did that. That's no big deal. I'm cool with that.
Right.
Now, it's about 2 hours later when I'm already back home, and I'll get a phone call. Now, this phone call is from the guy who got me the interview in the first place. He's talking to me. He goes, I don't understand what happened. And I said, well, you know what, brother? Thank you so much. And now he heard the last words I said, thank you, brother. That's okay. And he went, can I ask you a question without being, I'm like, he goes, are you black? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, no way, I'm black. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah. He goes, I thought you were the white boy that were going to get me in the job. And I'm like, what? He goes, dude, oh, man. I said, he goes, I read that script. That script was the bomb. And he goes, I thought for sure you were the white boy that was going to get me in and get me discovered. This was
Right.
it. And I'm like, dude, you didn't get in either. He goes, no, so this is it. So I have another story like that, but I'm not going to get into that now. But that's what I'm saying. When you're out to, I mean, America, if there's one thing about living in Europe as long as I have, I understand the art of competition. I am ready to get down and dirty. How many people have been understanding? I've been watching this game like Wall Street since 77 on to the current date. You know, how it's going to turn out, who's going to do what, where's Marvel going to come in. I remember Stan Lee coming to my high school saying, oh, yeah, Excelsior, and we're going to do this. Excuse me, Mr. Stanley. Yes, what can I help you with? Well, why ain't Black Panther coming? Well, you know, we're kind of working on that right now, and we'll get right back to you. Anyway, next question. You know, okay, thank you, Mr. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Nothing else said, and that was it. Competition is the game. A lot of the listeners have never written for white people before, but I started out at 14, easy. 90% of my clientele that I've been doing has always been white, because black people have never got what I'm doing because they're scared. And when I'm scared, they don't understand that even though the images I offer are dark, but the words are positive. You know what I'm saying? It's something original, something to, really get out there. What was that old saying? I'm doing me, you do you. Well, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's funny. It just as an aside, two different people handed my first novel to Spike Lee at different book signings. And so I know he's got two copies of it, but one of them actually asked him, he said, is this sci-fi? And the woman said yes. He says, I don't do sci-fi.
Yeah.
And so where do you go from there? Who else do we talk to? Oh, let's talk to what's the guy in the dress, Tyler Perry. He has his own studio. Well, yeah. But he doesn't do sci-fi either, or he has not.
Yes,
let's just say. I'm sorry.
Tyler Perry's first introduction into sci-fi, as far as I'm concerned, is the new Star Trek that J.J. Abrams did. He's actually one of the counselor people and so on and so forth.
Oh no, yeah, he's like an admiral in there. I know.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's not his movie.
No,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's definitely true. But what they were saying after that movie had been done, they said, okay, well, Tyler Perry, what's your future? What you plan on doing? He says, well, I'm thinking about doing something in sci-fi. That's the last you heard of it. That's the last he said, and he disappeared. You never heard from him. You don't know about any of that. We don't know if that's going to happen or even if it's true, because Tyler Perry's his market is in the black culture as teaching us what we already know about black people and the problems that we have, whether that be drugs, whether that be prison, whether that be this. And that's Tyler Perry's shtick. That's his thing. But when it comes to sci-fi, we need to be able to, as black people, to imagine ourselves in places that to boldly go where no man has gone before. Not no white man, but but no man has gone before. We need to really push that, push our imagination. What can you do with this? No, you don't have to be from the the hood or from this whatever. You can do it. You can be this person. You don't have to be that guy wearing a cape.
Yeah. Let me which is a good point, but let me repeat something that I heard. And what I heard was one of the reasons why Selma did not get the Academy support that so many people think it deserves is because, unlike 12 Years a Slave, in Selma we had triumphant black folks, principled black folks,
which is totally true.
And that the anti-black cultural backlash since the election and re-election of President Obama fostered. Not that he had anything to do with it. That the word is, and they have said that scared the hell out of white folks, because what it did was it completely destroyed any notion of white exceptionalism whatsoever. And so, culturally, you get a backlash like that, and it makes things it makes things difficult because people are small-minded. You know, people have fears. And the other thing is the Hollywood studio system is risk averse for a reason. If they spend $150 million to make a movie, they damn well better get $500 million back. Otherwise, they don't see it as a successful project.
Exactly.
And
I totally
and I have one more thing I'm going to mention, and there's somebody here who's going to be pissed that I said it. But here's the deal: you have I think that one of the problems for blacks in sci-fi right now was the lack of expected financial success of what was that, After Earth with Will Smith and his son?
Yes. Yes.
And so regardless of any extenuating circumstances, you have people who don't think very deeply. You have people who have their built-in prejudices and things like that. You have a black vehicle sci-fi movie like that does not make the expected amount of money based upon, you know, what Hollywood considers is a bankable star, and I believe I think that makes it difficult for the next black sci-fi person to come along, if that person is ever going to show up. Time will tell. Time will tell. Yeah, time will tell.
Think of it this way: Jada Pinkett, she came out with her own comic book a long time ago. And a lot of black people don't even know that. I only know that just because I was a sci-fi fan, and I had to go buy my fix, and my fix was my comic books.
Yeah.
She didn't get recognized for that. I got that comic book, and I sent all kinds of information to her to understand. I mean, you have to understand, Wild Wild West. Do you understand that that was Will Smith playing the black version of James Bond? They're not going to accept that.
Right.
Come on.
And that was sci-fi as well.
Exactly.
And that was sci-fi as well. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. You know, and then you go into iRobot, for example. What's that, Isaac Asimov? Oh, come on, dude. Really? You're gonna really play that? Okay, After Earth. Okay, that's fine. He did that whole thing, but now he's trying to be serious and so on and so forth. They didn't really change his look. He got his kid in it. That's great. I understand that. But in the end, not a black person wrote that. This is a black man taking the role from, you know, the role was originally written for a white person. Now he's got it, including I Am Legend. If you look at the graphic novel comic book of that, that's a white guy, you know. Will Smith should be playing some other roles that are written for him, but black people don't get. They'll get him into the comedy, and if it's, I mean, come on, Will Smith should be competing with Tom Cruise in Oblivion. He should be kicking. Excuse me for saying this. He should be kicking ass all the way to the bank, but he's untouchable. It'll take. You need to know this. In all the years I spent in L.A., you got to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, which is totally cool. I understand that game and how it works, but I'm doing film to get me noticed. If you notice what I'm doing and you hear what I'm doing and you walk away from it, then there's no way that you can sit there and say, well, the white man did anything. Because Tyler Perry, come on, I've been sending him information just like BET, just like I have been doing Black Enterprise Magazine. I've been sending these black people information about me for over 3 decades now. No one, they're like, well, they're not going to see it. You know, Jimi Hendrix, how did he get discovered? He went over to Europe, played in Europe, got discovered, came back over to America, and now, boom, he blew up. I mean, come on, Eartha Kitt. I mean, Josephine Baker. The list goes on and on and on. That's why I went to
Quincy
Europe.
Jones.
I got discovered out there. Quincy Jones, of course. The same thing.
Oh, and Duke Ellington.
There you go. I mean, some of the jazz greats that were. I mean, that's how it always happens. And then you go in there and they go, oh, well, you know, if the people, you can't complain when the people are staring you right in the face. This wonderful website that Jarvis has already started, it's already got 4,000 people on it. Already 4,000, if not 5,000 people. Come on. How many there are black people I know that are in the industry that don't even know it exists because they don't think it exists. They don't know. They have no idea. Black people can't write that. Black people can't do that. We're too busy shucking and driving. You know, what do you want to do? You want to do some more comedy? You want to do some more Tyler Perry? How much comedy do you need? We're already laughing at everything. Now it's time to do something bigger. We need to we can do the drama. We could do the 10 Years a Slave. We can always do that. That's fine. But now let's go ahead and do something that's really going to put us that's going to really put a stamp on the mark. Bam. This is what we do. This is our black sci-fi guy, and this is what's going on. I mean, come on. When Wesley Snipes did Blade. I mean, come on, think about how many black vampires exist in the film history of all horror and sci-fi. How many, Blackula included, how many black sci-fi people are out there playing vampires? Not that many, because black people don't do those type of roles. That's pretty much that's damn near demonic. You know, they're not playing. I mean,
yeah.
Black Indiana Jones at that time when black people were going through this, then it's not conceivable as Will Smith playing Wild Wild West. How can a black man have that position with what we know right now in history of that time period? Really?
Yeah,
Come
that's
on,
true.
that's you
Absolutely.
can't buy that.
Well,
you can't buy that.
That's why I called it science fiction.
Yeah.
The other
exactly.
thing that the other thing I think about is, you have an entire industry that is devoted to, putting out risk-averse products out there so that they can make money. And
True.
and another thing that and one of the components of that entire circumstance is you have to write a story that has universal appeal. Okay, you can, even Tyler Perry, he has a built-in audience, and his built-in audience is not all black. His built-in audience is multicultural, okay, and that's his low-hanging fruit. But in order for him to be successful, he still has to make money. He still has to make a profit. He still has to pay his bills. He still has to pay his production people. He has to pay the white actors and the black actors. So the fact of the matter is, it's a business. And if you don't treat these black creative endeavors as a business, and you're hoping that people will somehow glom onto you because it's art, and I just held my hands up in the, it's art. I think that people are going to have a rough road to hoe because it's by and large, it's a money business. Hang on a second here.
Well,
you're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the Black Science Fiction Society.com website, and this is the I got rid of my calendar here. This is the January 23rd edition, and we have D.E. Rankin Bodhi here as our special guest. He's been in film. He's been in music. Do you have some other art genres that I should mention?
Well, because my mom was a model, and I wanted to literally take advantage of the skills that she taught me, I started designing the clothing for my characters.
Okay, so very cool.
Also the jewelry as well. So I designed the jewelry, and then I hired the people that actually have the smelter in the process, and said, okay, here's the design. I need you to do this. You work with me on this. How do we get this done? Yada yada yada. I need the character for this. You get publicity for doing this, and yada yada yada. I wanted to do it all. Just do it all.
Well, I mean, it sounds very, very much like once you master something, you can put it behind you because you've acquired that skill set, and then you have the luxury of going on and learning something else. So that's pretty cool.
Very true. Very true.
Being able to hopscotch like that. First of all, it gives you a much, much better perspective about how the world goes on, I believe. And second of all, it exposes you to more people who you would not have run into had you been in maybe a singular profession. Let's talk a little bit about the people that you've met along the way. I mean, you've written the screenplays, you've done all of the things that you've done, and what kind of, I can understand the reception you got from, that one production team. And there are legions of stories about black creatives having their ideas stolen by white producers and things like that. While you were out in L.A., give us a little idea of what kind of environment was it, from a racial perspective? Because I mean, we all have our preconceived notions, and I have my whole highfalutin, I will never go to Hollywood because that's where you go for dreams to die. And people say, well, what if they option your books? Aren't you going to go out there? I'll visit, but I don't think I'll stay. So how was it for you in the time? And first of all, how many years were you out there?
I was out there till end of '84, all the way to the early '90s, and then I
Mhm.
left for 8 years and lived in Europe, and then came back from 2001 all the way to 2012. I lived
Let's
in
talk
West
about
Africa.
the latter part, the 2001 to
Okay.
2012, because that's kind of like recent history, and
Okay.
and and it's close enough that there's probably a lot of relevance still there.
hmm Well, for me, again, we got to get the money and so on and so forth. So I learned how to throw social events in Europe.
Okay.
Being able to entertain people for a 48-hour period in Ibiza, Spain, for example,
Mhm.
in Oslo, Norway, and Liège, Ghent, Antwerp, and all the way to the south of France, and Nice, and in Paris, and also London. I mean,
Mhm.
I needed to create a social environment where I am the San Diego Comic Con. You're not going there to see 1,000 comics. You're going there to see one comic, how to be under the umbrella of one comic, but there are other comic books out there that are available too. You know what I'm saying? It's like when
Sure.
you go to San Diego Comic Con, there are thousands of comic books that you can see, but you're there to only see one. That's how my event was pushed.
Okay.
So I was able to get artists who were painters, who were fashion designers, sculptors, jewelry makers, even some furniture makers to go ahead and push their to sell their stuff at my event. Now I know that sounds kind of crazy, but what I wanted it to be was like, for example, it's pulp events based off of a graphic novel called Perfect Gray. Netherm is based off of my graphic novel called The Perfect Gray, and I wanted it to be like, when you go to Disneyland. You go to Disneyland and you go to Pirates of the Caribbean. You know how they have those little shops where you can get you get the pirate hat, the pirate sword, the pirate coin, the balloon, and all that other craziness.
Sure.
Well, I wanted my event to be the same place. Like you come in, all my characters in my graphic novel meet every 100 years. No, every 50. I'm sorry, every 50 years. And in every the 50 years that they get together, they talk about what they've seen in the world and exchange information and so on and so forth. But outside of that meeting are a lot of vendors that they know. For example, relatives of Leonardo, great grandchildren of Leonardo da Vinci, great children of Picasso, and so on and so forth. These people come and they sell their wares, so it's like you're going into a whole other universe to see these wonderful wares. But there's this mystique, you go into like in the desert, there's like this great big tent, and in this tent there's all kinds of craziness going on. There's performance art, there's so into this, and there's this jewelry that was made over here as one of a kind, and so on and so forth. But the center stage is my graphic novel Netherm, and that was what I was pitching the whole time. I had learned how to do that in Europe, so when I got back to Los Angeles, bam, that was the first thing I started doing to raise and generate funds to do what I need to do for my events and hopefully make a movie.
Okay.
And that was it. That's what I did.
But
I didn't
yeah.
I didn't have to push the film anymore. I didn't have to push the film anymore because I know what I was going to get. And
Right.
without bringing up another long drawn out story where James Cameron is involved, I was basically told this: my work is so good that you need to do it yourself, or in a sense, pull a Stallone, like Sylvester Stallone. When he did Rocky, he made that movie himself. He directed it and financed it himself. That's how it was. That's what was going on. And
Mhm.
the people who I had talked to who were tight with Lightstorm Entertainment, which is James Cameron's company, read my work. They loved it, but they would not do it. And they would not do it because it wasn't loosely based. What that means is they can't take it. They needed
Right.
something. They needed something that was well constructed, but that they can say, okay, here's $8,000, kid. Now give me that. Now get out of here. That
Right.
wasn't going to happen. So I needed to generate the finances for myself in order to make this movie. So instead of generating finances to do an entire movie, I generated the finances to only do movie trailers. So when you go into my event, you see the trailer, you see the this, you see the that, you see the comic books, you see this, and just little short things. We're not pushing the big book yet. We're just saying that this is what's out here right now. But just have a
Mhm.
good time and just see what's going on. And that's what I did.
And you're exposing people to your ideas in a way
Mhm.
that it's quick, it's easily digestible, and and hopefully if you've done it well, you leave them with an impression that's lasting.
Exactly. I just want to give a quick example. In Stuttgart, Germany, where I was throwing my events right there, I didn't bring in outside people to sponsor my event. These were local people. So the local DJs, local painters, local designers. Their families came out, and their people came out to see them. So again, it's a Netherm event, but they're coming out to see the locals. So when I went to Spain, I only hired the locals, so that the local people can get to get involved. Now I don't 21 and over are always welcome at my events, but my events are specifically catered to 35 and up.
Okay.
So that brings a whole nother type of finance. That brings a whole nother type of vibe that changes the whole event. And that was basically testing out. I already field tested it in Europe, and now it was to really test it in Los Angeles. Now that I know what's going on, it was time to move to Florida. Things have changed in Los Angeles, and it costs a lot more for my European clientele to go all the way, come from London, for example, instead of stopping in Florida, they got to go all the way across the mountains to L.A. And then once they do my party, they have such a good time, they're like, okay, what are we going to do now? Well, there's nothing to do in L.A. You got to know somebody just to go ahead and club. That's not going to happen. So Florida is the best choice. New York is the best choice because people want to see that. That's okay. You can get into just about anything in both these states.
You make it sound so completely incestuous and narcissistic out in L.A.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
not really.
Go ahead.
It's not necessarily incestuous. It's like you said. It's made to break your dreams, but if you go there, you have to know your niche. You can't just go there with stepping off the bus with your little suitcase and go, okay, now I'm going to be a star. No, that's not how it works. You had to have known what your niche was long before you got there. So are you going to be a drama actor and you're trying to compete with everybody who's trying to look like Brad Pitt? Are you going into this game trying to look like this person and pull this type of acting skills? No. You have to know your niche. If you're going to go into the niche of sci-fi, then this is what you need to do. If you're going to go to the niche of this or westerns or whatever you're going to do, then you need to know your niche. You can't just go in there and say, okay, well, I'm going to be wild and outrageous and pull a Kim Kardashian and get a sex tape, and next thing you know, you're super rich. You all know what happened to Lawrence Fishburne's daughter when she tried that, right? That didn't go down so well.
I was just about to say, you can only get away with that sort of thing if you're rich and white. And I don't care what anybody wants to say, but
true, but it only happened once, so we can't expose ourselves like that. We can do other kind of craziness,
We got Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, well, and that's about it. And those are the only people that are going to do that once. And anyway, let's do something else. To have powerful lead black characters in sci-fi where the character actually matters. I came very close to meeting. Oh my goodness, what's my woman's name? Octavia Butler. She lived in Pasadena. I was in Pasadena at that time. That woman was very, very recluse, and you could not get to her place whatsoever. These are black people that are seriously. Science fiction is a lonely world, and to get other black artists to go ahead and say, okay, I want you to be this strong lead role, and this is what you're going to fight, or this is what you're going to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It has to be acceptable and believable. Not get there 10 minutes and go, oh man, that can never happen. Oh, I'm out of there. No, you got to believe it. I mean, come on. You don't think a character could have played Sigourney Weaver's role in Alien? I know she's the, the queen of sci-fi and all. But dude, you don't think when James Cameron did Alien, you don't think there's another black character that could have played that role? Look at Predator. After Danny Glover did it, they did another one, and the black woman who survives that against the Predator is black.
Yeah.
That's the character who survives is black. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. So can't we do something else? Let's do something else like that.
Well, it would be one thing if we had a movie and television industry that actually really did run on talent. Where the the money, the prestige was merit based. But we know that that's not necessarily true. So it is very difficult. I strongly. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was agreeing with you. No doubt. It is that way. But things can change. They have to change. The Latino community alone, if you just look at your TV station. How many TV stations are Latino owned as of this moment in time, right now? How many do you know that are out there? I can name 5 off my hand.
Yeah, I was
what
going
do
to
we
say
have?
about 5.
We got about we got BET and Bounce.
Isn't
and that's
BET
pretty
owned
much
by
it.
some white guys?
Who knows? At this point, I mean, you try to find out that information, but we don't really know. I mean, I'm not saying we don't really know. I haven't really looked into it, but I was for sure that this was the place to go. I mean, so basically, what? So we only have one. We have one TV station that's Bounce. You can't show.
Well,
you can only show Tyler Perry in the rerun so many times. I mean, why not? Why are we not doing something like Game of Thrones? Because nobody writes it. That's not true. You're not looking. There's no outlet for these people to go. They're thinking, oh yeah, the black man, we got to get the hookup. We want the hookup, but come on, dude, we're really good. And a lot of the black men and the black women who are doing don't know how to market their work. They've only been in the game since the 90s. They don't understand what the true blockbuster of science fiction. What was science fiction long before you started, long before Star Wars? Who came up what? Who did this? Who did? I mean, you can't just show up in there and go, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. You either want it or you don't. That's not how it works. You have to prove that it makes money. Now, how do you do that? Well, you work with me, and I'll show you how to get that done.
Yeah, I'm hovering around that for my work.
I understand.
I'm not done with, once I have a completed trilogy, then the people who have expressed interest, and that's Warner Brothers, HarperCollins, Tor, and Penguin. They looked at the first volume in the trilogy, and it's an intriguing story because no one's ever done it before. Blacks living in secret on the moon since before Armstrong got there. But they're all sitting around wondering, well, is this crazy Japanese Negro going to have these black folks come to the moon and kill all the white people in America? And if that happened, they would go, hey, that's a bad investment. Because there are things that can get done and things that absolutely cannot get done. So, when the third one comes out,
they don't understand it. They just don't understand it. As complicated and not high as a concept as your book is. I mean, to me, you're basically saying, well, now I'm gonna do Roots in Space, and they're like, I don't get it. Why would anybody want to leave? Well, you haven't read the story. You don't understand.
Oh, man.
If a white guy did that and said, okay, well, this is a story about all kinds of white people who left and went to the dark side of the moon. And it is. It's called Iron Sky. Where the Germans did the same thing. But this is black people. This is different, completely different. Now you want to see how that works and what went on with that. Now, either it's going to terrify some people, or maybe the people that have the money say, look, William, we love your work. It's really good. So how about this? We're going to take this and we're going to break it down into a miniseries, and we're going to show it on BET or Bounce as a TV series. So, sci-fi debut, William Hayashi comes out with this story. So now when you're turning on BET, you're not just getting, the same TV shows you're now seeing a science fiction, and not Blade, not a repeat of something that you've already seen in the theater or can get DVD or you probably own it, but a nice little show where you can see science fiction work, and not Sci-Fi Channel, but black channels where you can actually see black people doing sci-fi stuff, sci-fi work, sci-fi adventures. You know what I'm saying? That can happen. Why do you need to go to Warner Brothers?
No. They actually came to me. So I can't take any credit for that other than I wrote a book. But
okay,
one of the things
I understand.
No. Yeah, but one of the things that I think is starting to become an equalizer is the power of the internet. Because two things about that. First of all, once you're on the internet, you're ubiquitous. Okay,
True.
If you and I put together this great little show and we filmed it in Florida and we got our special effects done, blah 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 blah, 20 years ago we would have to go all over the country to all kinds of film festivals to show our movie, to get people to expose the movie. Nowadays, if you can hook up a good audience response to something that you do when you put it on the internet, it makes it far more accessible for a creator.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. However, I totally believe that even though the internet is powerful as it is, there's something about getting the proper audience that is going to view it, because everything's all over YouTube. Everything is over. Like, for example, if Jarvis were to have, let's just say, all video only, there's just one thing, you can only see it and go from there. Well, yeah, that's going to work. People are going to be drawn to that. It's got to
Right.
it's got to have some hook. There's got to be some gimmick or some this. Oh yeah, and this guy gets his head chopped off and his arm. Oh my gosh, let's go ahead and see that. Yeah, it's wonderful, but everybody's going to see it. When you attach a famous name to it, then yeah, that's going to get seen. But there are a lot of people who are doing this wonderful work that don't have famous people, so we have to like flood the market, literally
Right.
flood the market of what this is. And this wonderful show and the website is the only place I know in existence. Jarvis has mentioned numerous times how black people have started black websites, sci-fi websites. They don't even exist and haven't existed for years, man.
Right.
You know, this is stuff that
No,
we
you're,
need to
you're
leave behind for our children after we're long gone, dead and gone.
right. No, it is true, and building a legacy is tough on two fronts. First of all, you have to make sure that your legacy has merit. You know,
True.
because there's a whole lot of people out there who have. I mean, okay, how many kids 50 years from now are going to be wearing alarm clocks because they love Flava Flav?
Well, that's.
I know. I said
well,
it.
at least they know what
somebody-
time it is. They know what time it is.
somebody has- oh, you're assuming that they will set the clock properly. But you know what I'm saying? When you talk about a legacy, you want to have a legacy of quality. You want to have a legacy that matters, and that's tough. And then the second half that everybody struggles with is, because of the ubiquity of the internet and because of the amount of content on it, it's tough to rise above the background noise and maybe get some recognition that you deserve, because marketing is difficult. You know, everybody is in. Yeah, go ahead.
I truly understand that, but I choose to reach beyond that and not let these little things stop me in any way, shape, or form.
Oh no.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just saying.
it's not worth stopping.
It's a necessity.
Absolutely, it's not a deal breaker. It's not something that anybody who has something to offer has to have enough belief in themselves that they keep going, even if they don't get that initial. Like I said, even if Oprah doesn't put you on her show, or Ellen DeGeneres, or anybody else, anybody else who is a pop culture icon. My dream is, I'd love to be on the Daily Show and be on Letterman. Well, Letterman's leaving.
I agree.
But the Daily Show,
to be
look
on Johnny
what the Daily
Carson.
Show, look what the Daily Show did for Neil deGrasse Tyson.
And I've been in touch.
Who knew Neil deGrasse Tyson before Jon Stewart brought him on and then passed him over to what's the name? Stephen Colbert. People knew him academically. But they didn't know
knew him,
jack
I
about
was in
him.
touch with that. I was in touch with that guy in 2002 for a long time. Just me and him just having banter back across by email about me discounting wormholes and so on and so forth, and asking him about space travel just to go ahead and help me with some of the scripts that I was working for. That guy is awesome. But yeah, you're totally right. But look what he's now holding Carl Sagan's spot.
Well,
Ain't nobody going to take it from him. Nobody's going to take that from him, dude. He knows it.
But he's smart and he's entertaining. He has made science accessible to a generation that almost lost science because they've cut. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that is totally true. But he's the only black man out there doing it today, and as far as I know, has been doing it for a long period of time. So as far as I'm concerned, the game is afoot. Black people, get out there. Let's do it. We're not sitting there hanging around waiting for nothing. Let's get out there and do it by any means necessary. We got to get this spot. I'm not going to be in my 80s looking back going, well, I remember that time when I was on talking to William Hayashi. Yeah, we had some great times back then. No, that's not going to happen, man. No, we got to do this now. Like now. There are people who got the money to make this happen.
Right. But we also had J.C. Holbrook on this show, and she's getting more play. She's done a lot of films. She's doing her books. An American now living in South Africa. But
yes,
but
I
you're
remember
right.
her
There
shows.
are too
Yes, she's
there are
an
too few of us. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, she's the scientist woman from there, and her husband and
Right.
whatnot. Yeah,
The
I remember her.
astronomer.
Yeah, the astronomer. Excuse me. And yeah, she's going back and forth, and she's doing what she's doing, and the classes that she's offering out there to the Africans that are out there, dude, they don't have that out here. Not even remotely have that out here. You know, that's just look. I mean, yeah, we have our studios, and you can go on the computer and do this, but you don't have somebody saying, hey, like I had with my grandmother, to say, hey, let's go look at space. Let's go look at the stars. Let's go to the observatory. I spent my years at Gates Planetarium and the Denver Museum of Natural History for like forever. It was free. So every Saturday for like 3 summers I would spend 8 hours going through that. They knew me. I was going to be a creator. My grandmother was pushing me far beyond the capabilities that I wanted to, but I wanted to do something in that genre. You know,
Right.
just push and push and push. But hey, you got to have somebody start up somewhere, and I think he's awesome.
Yeah. Now, while you were out in LA, and as you were building your skill sets, and excuse me for saying so, but it is true. As you were growing up, and growing up can hopefully your growing up continues, through all of your life. But
yes,
who were some of the influences for you? When you're looking around, during all of this time doing all of these different things, did you see people out there who you admired, who brought something to the table that excited you?
Man, that's a loaded question. I'm going to go ahead and say again, for that immediate purpose in time, I'm going to have to say Don Cheadle, because like I said, Don Cheadle went to the same high school I did and graduated in '82. I graduated in '83. Not to sound like a stalker, but when I was a nerd in high school, I was watching this black man act in the up in the balcony all by myself, watching this guy act,
Sure.
so I can see what a true actor does. I was able to follow him in Hollywood for a while to hopefully try to that guy was my inspiration. But if I were to really go back and say what my true inspirations was, I'm going to have to say Grace Jones, Jimi Hendrix. I'll go and then I'll go as far as saying Quincy Jones, Russell Simmons, and then down to Stanley Kubrick. I mean, that was it. I wanted to be different. I wanted to shine. I wanted to be a light. I didn't try to look for the light. I was my own light, in hopes that other people will find that light within themselves.
And nowadays, when you look around, let's talk about the film industry first, and then let's talk about the music industry. What are you seeing that you admire in the film industry now, if anything?
The special effects.
Okay.
That's it. The stories are done. I mean, think of it. What is it? Into the Woods? How many times are you going to tell the same story of Little Red Riding Hood? Oh, that's right. It's Johnny Depp with the zoot suit. Gotcha. I gotcha. That's done, son. It's done. The stories are done. They're replaying and remaking everything that's already been done. So as far as what I appreciate it, good music coming out as far as soundtracks are concerned, and great special effects because the computer programs have just got awesome. That's it. Nothing more.
Yeah, I'm actually a soundtrack junkie. I like soundtracks a lot.
Are you saying you're a John Williams fan?
I like John Williams, but I will tell you what I think is the best soundtrack that has ever been produced, and that was the one from Shaft. Isaac Hayes.
Well, Isaac Hayes. Yeah, you sure can. Hey. And Curtis Mayfield and Superfly. Hey, you can keep going, and the book gets longer. I agree.
And so, you want to hope that you can work with that level of creativity.
I agree.
And obviously, Isaac Hayes is gone, Curtis Mayfield's gone, but
of course.
But being able to work with that caliber of talent, in a way that brings it all forward. I mean, we have so many people out there, so many black composers who don't get that opportunity. I like John Williams, I like James Newton Howard. I mean, there are a lot of different people who I think James Newton Howard's soundtrack for what was that movie? Grand Canyon with Danny Glover.
Right. Danny Glover, right.
That was, that and the helicopter. There are a lot of really effective things that are being done, but we don't get to see our people do them because I just don't think they're offered the opportunity.
True.
I simply can't believe that there's not 50 more Isaac Hayeses out there. Okay, I can't believe that they aren't there.
We got Jill Scott. We have the Roots, and there's some beautiful musicians out there. I mean, let's talk about Mos Def and on the work that he's doing. We got some beautiful musicians out there who are doing some wonderful work. But at some point in time, it's not. It can't be this. It can't. The music has got to go with not with the times. It's like if you're going to have an exciting an action movie with a black superhero in it, you don't need to have the Wu-Tang Clan do a rap beat. You can have Jill Scott. You can have Mos Def. You can have some of the black artists who don't rap but who know how to write musical scores do this, and get up there. Look at the Oscars as it stands right now. How many black people since the creation of cinema, how many of those spots do we got? What, like
very
20?
Few. Very
And,
few. Absolutely.
Dude, I want that spot, man. I want those spots. I'm not stopping. I am not going to stop. I want those spots. I'm not going to be sitting here talking about, I could have got this. Well, no. Even if I don't get recognized by the Academy, at least I'll be recognized by my people. I had an idea that I was. I mean, look at Hollywood. The Hollywood Walk of Fame. Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Watts? Are you familiar with the Watchtower in Watts?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
The shame of it is, I'll just confess this. I've actually never been to L.A.
That's cool.
I've been all up and down the coast. The whole Japanese half of my family is around, the Bay Area and San Francisco. Yeah. I don't think you could stand in San Francisco and throw a rock and not hit a Hayashi someplace. Not that I'm related to all of them. But, dude, it's like the Johnson of Japan,
I totally feel you. I totally understand you.
Right.
For me, it has always been that we're going to somehow have to make our own opportunities for this by any means necessary. As much as we're pushing
you're right.
into this, it just has to be done.
You're
people,
absolutely right.
We can't be sitting there having rappers buy. They want to have the Bugattis and they want to have this, but at some point in time, somebody out there has got to say, okay, I'm going to make the stand and say, this is how we're going to do it. I've been having the plan for a long time and just sending out information and this and here in New York and so on and so forth. We have to push harder. I'm not saying to stress ourselves out over it, but there is a way, and a way will be made. We've gotten this far in life. I'm not saying that it's far, but we've gotten far enough. And like I was saying,
well, there's movement. There is
which
movement,
is true.
That's
true.
Yeah.
That's true. With the glory of what you have with the internet, go check on Earthlink or whatever not Earthlink, Google Earth or whatever, and go to Watts Tower. If you look at the Watts Tower, it's not only an icon for LA, but I was thinking, I wanted to do is have the Black Hollywood Walk of Fame. All those black people that have died and been gone, who do not have stars, who will not have stars, we need to have our own stars, starting from the Hollywood Walk, and just black stars, and watch everybody get upset. Well, how can they have? They already got one over here. Why are they going to have two? I want two. You know what I'm saying? But there's not very many black people on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You know this. So why not start our own Hollywood Walk of Fame? We're black people that have died and gone who get represented.
No, they passed a law in 1964 that if we do have a black Hollywood Walk of Fame, it has to be on a street named Martin Luther King Drive. So that's so. Thank you. I'll be here every Friday. Right. Don't forget to tip your wait people. But no, you're right because you know what I believe is the only thing that stands between us and a black Hollywood analog in this country is our inability to merge and cooperate with each other. And people will give small examples of that. But
yes, I totally agree. My manager Jackie Smoot is pushing to create that merger as we venture with my friends in New York to really try to bring back the renaissance of old Harlem. and bring this sci-fi thing into Harlem and really knock it out, and get that vibe back. I mean, that's where it started. And
Yeah.
Jackie Smoot has been my complete advocator. I mean, she's a Purdue graduate. She's with Zora Neale Hurston, and she's aware of Black authors for years, W.E.B. Du Bois and more, and she knows that this can happen. So that merger, like you said, it does need to happen. It really does need to happen.
Yeah, I think two things stand in the way. One of them is that I think Black culture has been conditioned ever since we were brought here to have us compete with each other and to treat, and I've said this before, and I apologize for those people who think I'm a broken record, but we have been taught to treat Black culture as a zero-sum game. So let's say you have a bunch of novels out and I have a bunch of novels out. There's the expectation, there's the conditioning, there's the subliminal, whatever you want to call it, the subliminal opposite of seduction, where if you sell a novel, then I have to automatically believe with all my heart that you just took money out of my pocket. And
yes,
see, that's
I totally agree.
That's a very, very tough threshold. That's a very tough indoctrination to break. But somehow we've got to do that. Yeah,
which is true. Yeah. Which is totally true. I totally believe that. But like Spike Lee did, do the right thing. Not do the right thing. School Days. When they were talking about black and white hair, they were really airing out our dirty laundry as a racial caste system within the Black community, light skin versus dark skin, and so on and so forth. So basically, that supports what you're saying. When you're over the 300 years that we were slaves and pushed into compete and not trust the house nigga versus the field nigga. Not to get graphic, but I'm just saying that those things have
but that's
to stop
exactly
in the year
what
2016. In 2015, we have to come to some type of truth that yes, that is what happened, but now we are doing something different. And there are children and boys and girls and whatnot with their hair, and they're trying to how do we fit in and yada yada yada. But like you had mentioned on one of your shows before, these children will never know a decade or a time when there was not a Black president. I'm so glad my grandmother was alive to see that. And, she's like, see, like my grandmother told me when Obama won, she's like, you see, I told you you could be anything. I told you. I'm like, oh, I know, Granny, you were right. She's like, you can be president. Because I was sitting there going, Black president? Girl, you don't even know what you're talking about. I can't be no Black president. Ain't white man going to leave me. And she's like, see, I told you could be anything you want. She's crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. I told you could be everything you want. Anything you want.
Right.
And I didn't. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't believe her until it happened. And thank God that there's children out there that now won't know that. So we've got to change those things and get that merger started.
One of the, I mentioned Kevin Wilmot's movie, Destination Planet Negro, and one of the premise of it, for those who don't know, is Black scientists get together. I believe it's in the 1930s. And they decide that the only place that Black folks can go to get away from white influence and to live their lives without the kinds of things that they have to put up with back then was that they were going to have to take all the Black folks and go to Mars. So they collected all the money from all the Black folks they could. They built a spaceship and they sent, I think it was 4 people up to Mars. And what happened was the spaceship gets caught in some sort of a time warp, and they ended up in 2010. And so they land their spaceship, and they think they're on, they know that they've come into the future. And so they walk into this place. I believe it was a barbershop. And so there's a picture of Barack Obama on the wall. And the guys from 1930s go, well, who's that? And they go, well, that's the president. The president of what?
Right.
And so much as, but the coolest dichotomy in the movie was, as much as things have changed, and we know good and goddamn well, excuse me for saying so, saying it that way, but the thing is, we are in no way in a post-racial United States of America. I mean, the fact of the matter, Angela Davis just penned an essay, and I saw it in The Guardian, which is, a London publication.
Yes.
But she basically ran it down. She said for over 400 years, Black men's or Black males' civil rights have been violated all the way to the extent of being killed by white men for ever since we got here, and that very little has changed. And so when you look at what you think things, where you think things have changed, in a lot of ways they're not so different. And we have a right to call the culture on the carpet for that, but it makes things uncomfortable. And I think that's one of the reasons why Selma was snubbed by the Academy. And white folks, they're like, would you just shut up about race? Not everything is about race. And it's like, no, it's like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. Everything is about race, because everything in our culture is about who gets and who doesn't get. Okay?
I agree.
Right now, as you and I sit here, the vast majority of white people in this country, let's say half of the white people in this country believe that the only people on welfare are Mexicans and black folks.
Okay, I truly
They believe that. They believe that in their heart of hearts, that's the way it is. And the majority of people in this country are on welfare are white folks. Okay?
True.
The majority. And so you have an entire culture where their marketed status quo is the denaturing and destruction of non-whites. And now they're getting even more desperate because they know that in 2040, white folks are going to become a minority in this country. So, so you look at a snub of Selma, and you can make all the excuses you can, but if you look at it in the broader context, Selma had triumphant black folks. There was no slaves in it. These were black people who overcame a system, or at least started making the culture look at itself differently, essentially through nonviolence.
Which is totally true.
Yeah, and what do we get for it? Right now, any cop in America can kill any black man they want with impunity. And you know how they get away with it? With these words. All they have to say is, I feared for my life. Okay, first of all, I want to ask, when did white folks become such pussies? And second of all, what is it about our culture that fostered that fear? How did the scary, life-threatening, I will kill you black person become the narrative for an entire culture? It's so sad.
You know what? I totally understand your question, my man, and that's why it got me into archaeology and becoming an amateur archaeologist. Is in order to put myself in where I stand in the world, I had to research. Me and my grandmother researched our whole family, and then by living in Europe for as long as I had to do, I mean, the black people that I met there said that no matter where you are, just because you were a descendant of slaves, your face marks where you've come from in this country. So I was able to hang out with black men from Ghana. Come to find out that I'm actually from Senegal.
Okay, cool.
Like, wow.
Very cool.
So I'm like, okay, that's fine. And they said, the reason why you're from Senegal is because of blah, 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 and because of blah, 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 blah. And then when I hung out in Norway, I hung out with people who are very, very awesome. I mean, the only black people they see are what's on MTV, if they get that. These people were the Norwegians were so impressed by what I knew about Viking culture that they ended up telling me that that we came down to Africa at one time. We did this. We had no problem with black people. Never have. This is what's going on. But you see what's going on. They say, well, Columbus settled this first, only to find out that the Vikings were there a long time before you got there. That's history. We can't get. We have to get over that. We know that's the truth, and I think as being sci-fi creatives as we are, we need to inspire the rest of the adults that are here, that are now living, and hopefully we can inspire them to be better, think better, and do better. Be, do, have, so to speak. You be good, do good, and you have good. And know it's hard. I know it's so hard out there for my people. I can't, it's hard, but you know what? We have to stick with our convictions. Our convictions of doing the best that we can, and I'm not saying that we need to acquiesce to whatever, but we need to push harder to inspire and uplift, and those with the means of have to help those who can't. In other words, it's not that old school saying, "I got mine, now you get yours."
Right. And the other part of that, the part B about that is, if we are to tell our story, because there's so much pushback right now, science fiction gives us an outlet where we can tell our story in a different context, and the story is still told.
I agree.
And it's tough, you know. I've gone ad nauseum about how tough it is to, you know, get certain movies made, you know, certain books published, things like that, because of the black content. But I have to say that I admire Isaac Asimov for this one quote, and it largely is the reason why I write. And so what Isaac Asimov said was, individual science fiction stories may seem as trivial as ever to the blinder critics and philosophers of today. But the core of science fiction, its essence, has become crucial to our salvation if we are to be saved at all. And I truly believe that if we are going to tell our story, you know, okay, I told a story where we did something that we can do. We did it differently, and it paints us in a completely different light than what we're being used to, you know. And so I believe that is where science fiction has a huge amount of cultural value. Okay, you go to these red states, and what they're doing is they're rewriting the curriculum to take slavery out of American history. Okay, they're taking slavery out of there, and then the first thing you talk about is, the abuses of slavery, and then the first thing out of some white person's mouth, who's still pissed off that they lost, the South lost, they go, well, you know, over in Africa, you had black folks selling black folks to us too. And it's like, okay,
which is totally true.
Yeah, it is
totally
absolutely
true. It's war. It's war.
But
it's what war is. I understand.
And it was capitalism. Okay,
true.
So what is really the root of much of the evil in this world? And the root of much of the evil in this world is wealth building. Okay, excessive wealth building, and I truly believe that. So I postulated a community, a black community, where wealth was non-existent, where wealth had no value, and then, then you have to deal with people not because of the color of their skin, not because of how big their bank account is, but you truly have to deal with people on the basis of the content of their character.
I agree. I totally agree with that. That's one of the reasons why one of my scripts have a very wide cast, because I want to write science fiction for every color, so that every child can, you know, fit in where they get in, so to speak, and every, you know, everybody understand. I mean, maybe I'm looking through the world through rose-colored glasses, but, you know, when I was younger, I was told when children want to, you know, play, they play, how can I put it? They play superhero, you know. The game. Everybody, you know, there was a $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, Bruce Lee, and then you had Spider-Man, you had Batman. Nobody really wanted to be Robin, and I was up for Superman, and I was down for Superman. And the little white girls I was playing were like, yeah, he should be Superman. Yeah, he should be Superman. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be Superman. This kid says he can't be Superman, and I'm like, oh yeah, well why not? Because Superman ain't black. And I'm like, you know how Daffy Duck? Why you're despicable. I mean, I couldn't do anything. I wanted to thrash, but he made a point.
I know, man.
The child made a point. There's no point in trying to force it. He's right. He's absolutely right. So, with that being said, I'm gonna do something else, and therefore there is no excuse. Okay, yeah, I can't be Superman. Okay, that's fine. But you know what? I'm gonna be something else, and I'll be better. You know, and I'll do it harder, and I'll work harder at it, you know?
Right. And the cool thing is our imagination is just as vivid as anybody else's. And even if we have only white examples in front of us, we still have the imagination necessary to expand our own cultural horizons.
And
you know,
I agree. I totally agree.
You know, I mean, we can go back to you know, the brouhaha about who originally wrote The Matrix. You know.
Oh, you know that story too, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and here's what's surprising to me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Here's what's surprising to me. I'm surprised your stuff didn't get stolen too.
No, but, well, you know what? Let me tell you, Mr. Hayashi. I'm going to tell you this is how this works, how I figured out how to get around that. Now you
Okay.
see, in order to get around so my stuff, my work is so precise. Again, like I said, Cameron, for example, when James Cameron, his reader read my work and that got given back to me, and yes, they loved it, but he again wanted something more loosely based. My
Right.
scripts were written as such that you cannot add or subtract anything to it and come up with the same ending. If anyone tries to take my work and steal it, I have rewritten my work so much that I could take what you just stolen from me, change it around, and still come up with the same story.
Okay. All right. I get you.
You know,
So
you
I
have to
mean,
be.
but you're lucky. You're lucky that they didn't try. You know what I'm saying?
No, I have no, not lucky, not lucky. They have tried. I'm not going to throw out names out there because this is the internet. So
Oh, go
those
ahead.
people know who tried. Those people
No,
know who
no,
they
go
tried.
ahead.
They tried
Name
to-
names.
Okay, okay.
Give me an exclusive. Come
You remember?
on. No, I'm just kidding.
You okay?
Don't
You know,
don't get your ass in
I won't.
trouble.
I won't. Exactly.
Okay.
I won't. Okay. So with that being said, I wrote my work. I've sent my work out. That's why when people look at my work and the way people that have looked at my work, they go, "Oh yeah, this has got to be a white guy. We love this guy. Let's get this guy in here." And they see me like, "Wait a minute, this is a 6'5" brother. Are you kidding me, dude? No way, man. You didn't write this. You didn't. No,
Right.
you didn't write this. I mean, they're not gonna get it. The thing about it is I wrote my script so it doesn't read like a script. The average person doesn't really want. If I was a photographer and I show you my work, you look at it and you go, okay, and you throw your opinion. If I'm a rapper and I let you listen to my CD, you listen to it and you go, okay, then you got your opinion. Now, when you're a script writer or author, you've got to actually have the time and spend, the attention span to sit down and read it. You know,
Right.
you have to read the work. You can't judge and go, well, I just don't read. No, I learned how to write scripts in a way that within 5 pages, I guarantee you money. I got you. I'll give you 10, but within the first 5 pages of my script, I guarantee I got you, and you're not going to want to put that down because
Sure.
I figured out how to write it. It is the blueprint, but I figured out how to make that blueprint exciting without filling in all the gaps for you. Your imagination can run with you, so you can like, oh, I love this story. I see how it's going out, yada yada yada. And that's how you got to do it. And there's no script writing school unless you got the money to go to a film school. You know, that's how it works.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you don't got that, then you have to do that hardcore research and get into it.
Yeah, but even if you go to school, you know, you're still not assured of being a great scriptwriter. You can be
Oh,
technically
no.
great, but when you talk about, you know, the brilliant ideas, there's a stratospheric level that the best creative thinkers that live on, where you know other people just can't go, they can't get there. And so I think you know, when you find a talent like that, when you find a talent like yours, it's so compelling and so easily recognizable that, like you said, your ideas, there's a certain precision to your ideas, there's a precision to your writing that is uniquely yours. And so somebody could take the broad strokes. Let's see. Instead of the Nazis on the back of the moon, let's pull black folks or something. You know, and one of the things I'm gonna feed this line to Jon Stewart or whoever. You know, I want them to ask me, well, William, you're half black, you're half Japanese. What made you decide to put, you know, black folks, African Americans, on the backside of the moon? And here is my racist for America response. I'll say, well, John, I mean, which makes for the better story? If the guys who messed up the curve in all of your high school and college classes build a spaceship and go to the moon, or if the basketball team did it, you know, and that's the essence of the idea, playing against type.
Which is totally true.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes to go. Let me ask you this. Okay,
yes, sir.
You've been around for a long time, okay?
A while.
And you've,
a while.
And you've done so many different things well.
Yes, sir.
What do you have ahead of you? What are you looking at for maybe the next 5 or the next 10 years for you?
The same thing that I have been doing. Getting my film done for one.
Right.
I do have a plan to go back to Europe and finish. I have for my European friends, Arnold Richers from Paris, who I'm sure is listening right now, or at least he will be listening. Yeah, I've got photography. I've got a lot of stuff on my plate to get that done. I would hope to be in TV at this time, if not film. I'm going to push as hard as I can. I don't like to think that far because that gives myself expectations, which I am not going to give myself expectations. I'm going to do this one day at a time. I didn't get this old because I was rushing through things only to make mistakes and then go, well, I didn't know. No, there is none of that.
Right.
I take my time.
No,
take my time.
and that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But the fact of the matter is, like you said early on, you're always going to be a continuous student, learning new things, and not just the learning of them, but the part B is the mastery of them. We can all read about script writing, but if you want to master the art of telling a story, that's a whole different level. So
I totally agree.
And so it's something that I think young people might want to think about, but it's not an easy path. It takes some things that they definitely don't teach in school now. How do you become a self-taught anything in today's day and age? And I apologize if people perceive me as shortchanging, our kids today or our younger people today, but the culture has changed. The culture has definitely changed. The parameters are different. The way of getting by is different. And one of the things that disappoints me a lot is looking at people who either believe that they're owed something, or people who want to do shortcuts.
Which is totally true.
Yeah,
true. And if my grandmother didn't teach me one thing, it'd be that there are no shortcuts to greatness. There are no shortcuts to fame. That is what you choose to put out into the world. I know my stories are graphic and there's nudity and violence, but in the end, I want to bring something positive to our culture by means of this storytelling format, which I choose to master and continue to be a master of.
Sure. Just out of curiosity, and it's no reflection on you. A lot of people have different ways of doing things, but do you do much outreach to younger people to help them develop the mindset that you have for going out and doing things?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Only I've been taking care. I've been not taken care of, but I've been dividing my time with those people that are homeless, those adults that are homeless, and the children. I'm not saying that a community and so on and so forth, but I don't want to give up on the adults who are already here, who are the parents and the grandparents. I don't want to give up on them because there's so many programs out there for children right now. I mean, come on, they're doing Go-Gurt, Come on, we didn't have Go-Gurt. Remember the popsicle? You get the dual popsicle and you got to break it in half and split. You don't get the whole popsicle. You got to break that bad boy in half. You know what I'm saying? You don't get Go-Gurt.
And you notice what they've done with those popsicles? They have them. They come in halves now. They don't come in the whole. They come in the single stick because Yeah, I know.
Totally. So I in the future I will for children and eventually in the future I will. But for right now, my goal are for the adults to let them know that there's somebody out there that is thinking about them and their well-being. Because if the adults are well, they will take care of the children.
Right. Now, you just mentioned this. I mean, this is the first time you mentioned this. Do you describe? We've got a little over 5 minutes.
Okay.
Give us a little rundown on what you do with the homeless.
I help feed them. I noticed that a lot of the homeless people don't have people to talk to. So in Los Angeles, I made time to help the homeless, and talk to them about their problems and as much as I can, and help feed them and give them a little bit of as much hope as I can. I mean, I know I'm an odd-looking brother, but just to let them know that they're not alone.
Right. You
feed them a kind word, a handshake, truly physically engage them. How's your day, sir? oh, really, ma'am? Is there anything I can do for you? Can I get this for you? Would you like can I get you some tissue? Would you like any more to drink? Is there anything else I can do for you? You know, be a servant for those instead of expecting something back. I'm learning the long process on how to give as well, and do that with the kindness, not saying, not a thou shalt not, but more that I don't think I will. I'm going to do the right thing because if I was in this situation, I would want this for me.
Wow,
you know, do unto others.
That's,
you know that you know
yeah.
do unto others. That's what Granny taught me.
Well, and
right.
I think, you know, one of the things, you know, I look at it also as paying it forward too, because if you can get these people in a better place, the chances of them understanding people who are in their situation further down the road and maybe having them help out would seem to be much higher, you know, more likely.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Yeah, that's great, man. I didn't know that about you. You know, in all of the things that I read, and
I try. Perfect. I'm still a work in progress.
Well, I know. There's a certain amount of humility about looking at the world around you in that way, and deciding that, you know, to take it upon yourself to do what you can to make the entire world better.
Exactly.
It's
like Ozzy Osbourne said, be careful. Like Ozzy Osbourne said, be careful of the feet you step on the way up because you're going to have to meet them coming right back down. So be kind to those people that you run into because you never know who they're going to be. So I make an effort to keep that kindness, to spread the kindness, regardless of what's happening in the world, regardless of what they see on the TV, regardless of what the cops are doing. I'm going to do my part and be a strong black man and pass on love and kindness as much as I can.
Man, I've had a great time with you. Did it seem like 2 hours to you?
Not at all, sir.
Okay,
Not
good.
at all.
All right, good. Well, you know, everybody always worries about that. And you know, the other thing is, I listen to other radio shows, other internet shows, other interview shows. And I've done a couple of interviews on the radio, none on television because, of course, I have the looks for radio. But you know, you get 6-8 minutes to try to tell people, you know, to try to compel people to understand who you are, and I just don't think that's enough time. So I want to thank you for being here, and if you'll hang on after the recording is over, we can have a little chat, bring in Jarvis. As a matter of fact, Jarvis should be uncooking his mic right now, and again, I mean, this was great. You know, when we first started talking almost a year ago, did you think that this was going to happen the way it did?
Never in a million years. Not in a million years. That's why I'm so blessed and so happy to be there. I've been wanting to talk about science fiction to black people since I was 14, and you can't do that, man. You can never do that. I got to be an old man now. I get to get it out. I'll tell you what I'm doing. Let me tell you something. Do you know? Just go crazy.
But yeah, I'll tell you something. But first, get the hell off my lawn.
Will do.
Anyway, okay. So hang on. Thanks again, Jarvis. What you got for us tonight?
Oh man, I'm gonna just keep it short and sweet. I am so, I'm always thankful for everybody that participates on the show, that takes the time to come share what they're doing, and for William, for you, making the show always so entertaining and really breathing life into the show. It couldn't be what it is without William or the guests or the people that come in here and listen to this every week.
Word.
Yeah,
Word.
and
Amen.
I'm just
Amen.
glad. I'm touched that we're able to touch and meet and get to know other people just like us, that think like us, that believe that we need to spread this thing, this black science fiction thing, and share what's already out there and keep building.
That's right. You ain't alone, black people. You ain't alone. Let's keep doing it.
Right. That's one of the biggest things since the site began. I keep hearing other people say that I thought I was the only person like this, and to find other people of like mind is great. And I'll continue to reiterate the statement: today's science fiction is tomorrow's science fact, and we need to be involved in building that that new future. So if we're not involved in science fiction, someone else is going to take control of it and reap the benefits. So we need to be involved in these things too. And
Jarvis.
you know me, get on a soapbox, I'll talk forever. But thanks for sharing all the stuff that you have been doing in the past. I didn't know, man. You took it all the way back to the microfish on us. I was like, what? The microfish? I know exactly what that is, but I hadn't heard it in a number of years. But all the different things that you're doing as far as writing, as far as creating stop motion, and the creature effects, I mean, that's some really interesting stuff. And but one of the biggest things that I see, I think we concentrate on the obstacles too much a lot of times. And what you've done, you've created ways, you found ways around the obstacles. And I want to encourage everyone to focus not so much on the obstacles. We know that they've been there and they're going to continue to be there. But we have to figure out ways, implement ways to make things happen regardless of the obstacles. And with that, I'm going to end, and I'm going to stop recording in just a second, and we can continue to talk a little bit more. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming on here. Huh?
Yeah, before you go, remember, everybody, please continue to support the show. Show up on Fridays, just so it's not just us. And tell your friends. Try to get, if you can, maybe one new person to come and listen to the show live. It's great that we have as much traffic as we do for the podcast, and now we've got our own channel on YouTube. So please, first of all, thank you all for participating. Thank everybody for showing up. And don't forget, every Friday, unless something goes horribly wrong, but every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're here for your edification and entertainment. So thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thanks everybody.